Wow, a barn burner of a speech last night from Hillary Clinton. Khizr Khan, an astonishing speech. I've got 11 Hillary Clinton clips. I've got 5 Khizr Khan clips. We've got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Katy Perry, a bunch of things I want to share with you from last night. Somebody on Twitter this morning, I was not tweeting last night. I really wanted to just listen to the speech. And by the time the speech was over, I just, it has been an insanely long week, and I don't think I've had more than 6 hours sleep any night this week. So Louise and I just went to bed. So this morning, somebody tweeted, how come you're not offering an opinion on this? And so I tweeted back saying, what do you think? Do you think Hillary did a good job or not? And I tweeted back words to the effect of, I don't remember my exact words, but I tweeted back words to the effect of, I thought she knocked it out of the park, and her speech reminded me of John Kennedy, J.F.K. And, immediately there were all these tweets back at me going, what? You're comparing Hillary Clinton to J.F.K.? Well, yeah, I remember J.F.K., right? I was a little kid. I was 9 years old when he was elected, but I remember the election. And I was, 12 years old when he was assassinated. I remember the assassination. I was a teenager when Robert Kennedy ran for president in 1968. I was 17 years old. I remember that vividly. I remember Martin Luther King vividly. I remember the assassination of Bobby and Robert. Bobby and Martin. And clearly I remember the assassination of JFK. Laura and I wrote 2 books about it. But here's why I was saying JFK. First of all, keep in mind, John Kennedy was the conservative of the 2 brothers. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Kennedy had been in the Navy. His PT boat was blown up. He had a high level of admiration for the military and of commitment to the military. He had fought in World War II. He was not afraid of speaking of our military, praising our military, having been a part of the military. In fact, he ran on that. He was, and that was after the good war, World War II. We've had so many bad wars since then. It's gotten so that politicians are a little, let's not touch this. So anyhow, that's number one. That's, if I thought that this was the Hillary's speech was basically Bernie's speech, I would have said it reminded me of RFK, because I thought it was, it's interesting to watch the evolution of Hillary Clinton and the evolution of her ability to present herself, which she's talked about a number of times, that she's a very good worker, she's not a very good politician, or not a very good presenter, shall we say. I think she's really getting hit her groove. There were times last night when she stumbled. There were times when she stumbled on the prompter. I could see it. I do that for a living. I read a prompter, on the TV show at night. I don't do it on radio, but on TV. And, it's not easy. And it's a skill that you learn. And doing it and making it seem natural is, so anyhow, but boy, when she got cranked up, I thought it was amazing. Now, then there's people who respond to me and say, but, I don't trust what she said. I mean, I liked what she said. She shouted out to the Bernie folks. She listed a bunch of progressive things. It was a very progressive speech, arguably more progressive in some ways than John Kennedy's speeches. But I don't trust her, people are saying to me. And my response to you is, don't trust any politician. We're not electing a king. We're not electing a god. We're electing a politician. We're electing a representative. And then people say, oh, but I trust Bernie. I'd follow him to the end of the earth. Well, so would I. I trust Bernie. And I say don't trust any politician. Bernie's very much an exception. But that said, if Bernie Sanders was elected president of the United States tomorrow, and we all said, okay, we got Bernie in, let's go home, we would have the same problem that we have right now with President Obama, which would be Republicans running the House and Senate and obstructing everything Bernie would try to do. And he would have a failed presidency if we didn't participate. You get this? It's not about who is in the White House. It's not about who's heading up the ticket. It's about what we So don't give me this this is our job as much as anybody else's. The reality is that Hillary Clinton is a smart enough politician to have figured out that the ground has shifted in American politics. The neoliberal worldview that Al Fromm, thank you, Shano. Al Fromm, I keep mingling him in my mind with Bob Schrum, that Al Fromm and Bill Clinton hatched in the late 80s and rolled out in the early 90s. That neoliberal consensus is dying. The idea that private-public partnerships are a wonderful thing and we should privatize large parts of the government and that we should cut back on programs that help people out and just the whole, the era of big government is over and the end of welfare as we know it and all that stuff is dead and dying. And Hillary Clinton has figured that out. Thus the speech last night. So which leads us to the problem of governing. So if she knows what's right, and she's saying what's right, how do you make it happen? Well, you'd have to push her. Let's not be, on the one hand, starry-eyed idealists. Oh, if we just had, the perfect person, everything would be wonderful. No, that's crazy. And on the other hand, let's not be stupid cynics, frankly. Oh, we didn't get the perfect person. I'm going to go away. Or I'm going to go, vote for Jill Stein or something. Come on. This is, I'm not going to reprise my Jill Stein rant. I've shared that with you in the past, but it's just it's pissing away your vote, frankly. And, for a vanity candidate who pops up every 4 years. And the Green Party used to be a force. I remember the Green Party. Like I said, I dedicated, the opening of Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight is dedicated to Petra Kelly, who founded the Green Party in Germany back in the 60s. But the Green Party now has just, under Jill Stein over the last 8 years, it's just become a shell. It's like they're doing virtually nothing other than trolling Democrats. I think it's tragic. But anyhow, so Hillary knows what's right, but we have to push her. I mean, after J.F.K. died, and then after Bobby Kennedy died, and for those of you who aren't old enough to remember this, just, reality check it with somebody my age. After these guys died, Lyndon Johnson became president of the United States. Lyndon Johnson was a very conservative Democrat from Texas who knew how to take names and kick ass. And because we pushed him, because Martin Luther King pushed him, because the civil rights movement pushed him, he passed some of the most sweeping legislation in the history of our country. The Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Great Society, created Medicare, created all these extraordinary programs. Why? Because we pushed the hell out of this guy. The one thing we were unsuccessful in pushing him on was ending the Vietnam War, and we actually were successful on that and didn't learn about it until 3 years ago when the LBJ Library released the tape of Lyndon Johnson talking to Everett Dirksen about how Richard Nixon was blowing up his negotiations with the South Vietnamese in late 1968 in order to win the election, that Richard Nixon was committing treason. And thus the war continued. But we were actually successful in pushing LBJ to end the war. LBJ, a guy who was way to the right of Hillary Clinton at the beginning of his presidency. Robert Kennedy hated Lyndon Johnson because he was so far to the right. And Lyndon Johnson ended up being one of our most progressive presidents. There's some history here people need to know. Anyhow, we'll be back with the clips after this. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Just had to get my rant off my chest. Somebody on Twitter said, how can you say that? And I said, I'll tell you on the program. This is not something I can reduce to 140 characters. We'll be back.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.